Welcome to the SMB Community Podcast with hosts Amy Babinchek, James Kernan, and Karl Polachek. Produced by Kernan Consulting and for the international MSP community. We are dedicated to making every IT professional a successful IT professional.
Hi, this is Karl, and I caught up with Mr. Christopher Barber from Cheaper Than a Geek. And are you in Baltimore itself?
Right in between Baltimore and DC.
Okay. And I want to talk to Chris about, first of all, how can we get him to change the name of his company? But besides that, his extreme involvement in chambers of commerce and what that has done for his business. Among other things, Chris is on the Maryland State Executive Board for the State Chamber of Commerce. And I want to talk about what that means and why we should care. But let's back up first. Welcome. You run an MSP business. Tell us about Cheaper Than a Geek.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you can't resist making a comment on the name. A little teaser. There might be another one in development, but I'll report back to you on that one. That'll be fun. So yeah, we're an MSP. We're right in the middle of DC, Baltimore, and Annapolis, Maryland, in a little city you probably never heard of called Crofton. So we're about a 20-minute drive to each of those cities. So right in the middle of everything. And we are an MSP. We started off as a break fix shop like so many did. And then I read a really great book years ago called Managed Services in a Month. And became an MSP quite a while ago. So that was a game-changing book for me. And we specialize in the small business space. So most of our clients are 1 to 10, 1 to 20 person companies. There's a gazillion of them around here, and we like being the go-to resource for those folks. And I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you why I started this company in the first place, which is the IT industry. When I started this thing almost 25 years ago, kind of famous for terrible customer service. So I said, hey, if I start an IT company that's got good customer service, we're going to be a lot different than all the other stuff out there. And you fast forward to today, and we have won lots of awards for our awesome customer service, and we're really proud of that. So that's kind of baked into everything we do. I mean, it's literally why we started. Right. We also like being the small business MSP.
And so do you go to market with the, customer service first and, we don't suck and that kind of thing?
Exactly. Yeah. And there's so many things that go into that. But like, for example, like front and center on our webpage is we answer the phone with a live human being in an average of 18 seconds. You can't say that about all IT companies or companies in general, really. So yeah, it's just baked into everything that we do. So we're really proud of it. I mean, that's our why, if you want to put it like that.
Right. And how many folks do you have? How many employees?
We're a huge company, Karl. There's 9 of us.
Hey, that's huger than most.
Fair enough.
So, very cool. All right. So that's kind of who you are. Let's talk about why you got involved with chambers in the first place.
Sure. So, I in the early years of the company, a friend of mine, in the interest of trying to give me good advice, said, hey, you should join a chamber of commerce. And I said, what is that? What is a chamber of commerce? So I looked into it. She's a smart lady, so I was like, all right, I should listen to her. And so I joined the local chamber of commerce. It was the Crofton Chamber of Commerce. I signed up. The phone did not ring off the hook. And when the membership person called me for my annual renewal, I said, I'm not really getting anything out of this. And she said, well, you're not really doing anything either. I said, okay, fair enough. So she's like, you got to go to the events, you got to talk to people, so on and so forth. So I was like, all right. I'll renew and I'll give it a shot this time. And to my surprise, it worked out really. So, MSPs are B2B, and there's nothing but businesses in these chambers. So, I like it because it puts us front and center with the business community, but also they tend to advocate on small business issues, which is good. So anything you can do to like strengthen the relationship between the community and the community at large and the business community, I think is really awesome. And that was my experience with the local chamber. I liked it so much that several years later I got on their board, and fast forward to today, and with the Greater Crofton Chamber of Commerce, I'm their immediate past president. So I kind of went the full gamut there. And then if this is an appropriate time, we'll kind of cover the other ones too.
Yeah, we'll get to the other ones, but you know, it's interesting when I first was getting introduced to business in the, you know, some kind of real sense. When I was in college, I took a job at the local chamber in Spokane because I needed some extra money, right? And I was in political science, so they hired me to do like research on local politics and help them write up position papers, right?
Oh, that's
So, you know, I used to go walk down to the chamber at 7 o'clock in the morning, um, you know, and do some work for them before school. So when I started my business, one of the first things I did, and I didn't even know why, I knew what a chamber was. I didn't really know why it would help my business, but I'm like, I'm just going to join and we're going to find out, you know, and they have at least in Sacramento, they have a tiered membership depending on the size of your company, right? So, you know, I got one person, I'm going to be a one-person member. Here we go. And the first meeting I went to was a new member breakfast. And the woman sitting next to me was from an insurance company, and we got to chatting. And then she said, I'd like to find out more about what you do. Can you come by my office? I did. She signed a contract.
nice.
Boom. Like that was it. Like, okay, I'm going to keep getting involved in the chamber.
This works.
Yeah. You know, it's one of those things like you have the peak end experience. Well, my peak experience was there. And, you know, in terms of hours spent with the chamber and clients, you know, attained, it was the best performance the chamber ever did for me. The first hour where I'm eating breakfast and so I have a very positive impression of that. Now, that I would also say I always love speaking to chambers, and I don't know about where you are, but my impression from around Sacramento is the chambers always need presenters. They have a meeting every month, and they've got a slot, 20 minutes in exchange for, you know, bad chicken. You get to make a presentation, right? And it's not a sales opportunity, except you're the expert in the front of the room on that topic. Ta-da, right? And it's an environment where everybody exchanges business cards. So it's sort of built for connections, right? So do you guys do all those kinds of things, have meetings and new member stuff and speakers and all that? Is that a normal chamber thing worldwide or statewide?
I would say so. It's definitely the case out here, and you and I couldn't be further apart and still both in America, you know? So, yeah, you know, you definitely described the chambers out here. And so we try to do everything we can on their calendars, which a lot of times when I'm talking to folks about that are considering chamber membership, you know, I'm in Anne Arundel County, Maryland, so it's a decent sized county. We have like 5 chamber type organizations in this one county. Where my mom lives in Colorado, there's one for the whole county, you know what I mean? But it's just so populated here that, you know, there's sprung a need to have 5 of them. And honestly, they're all good and they're all different from each other. So I tell folks, you know, resist the temptation to join 4 or 5 of them because you won't be able to do all their stuff. So for me, I tell folks, do 1, 2, 3's pushing it. But if you're going to do 3, stop at 3 and go to the stuff, speak when you can, you know, and it's just a lot of it's repetition.
Right.
Oh, I always like to tell this story. I was at a networking breakfast with, among other people, this gentleman that owns an insurance agency, and I was headed to another similar kind of meeting right afterwards nearby, and told them like, hey, if anybody wants to go with me, you know, we'll go to this other thing. So he was one of the people that followed me over. So I'm giving my elevator speech for the second time that day in front of this guy, and then he was like, you know, we're replacing all the computers in our office. Do you think you guys could help us with that? And I'm like, yeah, I think so.
Exactly.
It's like, man, I'm glad you came to the second meeting.
So it's my impression, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you are a joiner, right? You're on the board, longtime member of the board of the National Society of IT Service Providers. I think you were on the original board, like you've been there since day one, essentially.
OG.
So so there's that, and then there's various chambers and stuff. So what about people who are not joiners? Like they don't go to every meetup, you know, like can they get value out of the chamber without being a speaker, without joining everything?
Yeah, you know, uh, I think the answer is yes. I will hold it out there that the more things you join, I think the better your ROI is going to be. And you know, fun fact, I don't talk about this very often, but to your listeners that don't consider themselves joiners, let me tell you about how I was really starting to get engaged with the chamber. So I, you know, years back said, all right, business is going well. I got to figure out how to take it to the next level. I probably need a salesperson. And I said, okay, that's cool, but I don't know how to manage a salesperson. I don't know what to tell them what to do. I don't know how to pay them. So I guess I got to be a salesperson, understand the role inside out, and then I'll know how to hire one and how to manage them. So, and I was like, man, I cannot wait to get out of this sales role. You know, it's how it started. And my first introduction at a chamber event, and you know, I've been out of high school for a really long time. My voice cracked because I was nervous, and I was like, "What is going on here?" But what I noticed was, the more I did it, the better I got at it, and the more I liked it. So, you know, that was at least a decade and a half ago, and that's I'm still in the BD role, and it's my favorite. It's my favorite position to play. You know, I will probably retire from my company and still in some sort of a sales role. So, even though networking sometimes can feel a little uncomfortable, a little intimidating, you know, you might feel like you're the only person that doesn't know anybody in the room. Like, give it a shot because you might be pleasantly surprised. In fact, I think most people end up being much better at this than they give themselves credit for.
Right. Well, side note, I'm a firm believer that most people hire a salesperson approximately $1 million lower in revenue than they should before they hire a salesperson. Because, you know, just doing the math, you can't give somebody what they need to raise their family and be happy until they sell $1 million worth of revenue consistently every year. So
Correct.
you can't
That's a good way to
deliver,
put it.
you know, and you don't know how to make that happen. And you don't know how to manage somebody who can sell $1 million a year, right? Right.
Mhm.
You have to be your primary salesperson for a long, long, long time.
And
So,
also, I don't think anybody will sell your company as well as you do. You know, like I
right.
think it's human nature.
Well, it's interesting. It's one of the few things where I think the people's gut instinct is completely right. I think a lot of times when we start businesses, our gut instinct is to do some wrong things. Oh, yeah, I'll give these people, I'll give these total strangers credit. I'll buy a computer and put it in their place and I'll send them a bill. Like, oh, what? Like, no credit check. No, what are you doing? Right? It's just an insane thing that we all eventually figured out. Oh, yeah, if you don't want to lose money from people not paying their bills, don't do that. Right?
Exactly.
But the tendency to say, well, I don't want to hire a salesperson because I don't know that they're going to sell what the right things or know what we sell, what we don't sell. Like that's a good instinct that I think more people need to follow instead of fight. So anyway, that's a
Totally.
side. Um, so with the chamber, what kinds of things, like how much time do you spend in an average month dealing with chamber stuff, knowing that some of it builds relationships and leads to sales? Like, but just in general, what kind of commitment have you got going on there?
That's a good question. I would say about 10 hours a month, thereabouts. And I'm a little aggressive. I mean, you can do more than that, but I feel like that's probably more than an average person. But, I feel like the ROI is there, kind of like that example I was giving you about the insurance agency. Like sometimes sales is just simply repetition. It's really weird how that works. But, um, I can't tell you how many times I would bump into somebody and they're like, man, I see you everywhere. Let's talk. Can you do lunch next week? And I'm like, haha, then it works. It's like,
Right.
I like to tell people like I refuse to be ignored.
Well, so part of it is that we don't know when we first start a business that most of the time, most of the people don't need what we're selling today. They might all need it someday, but if they have got somebody in-house, out-house, whatever, they've got somebody that they like and they trust, and things are not broken and stuff is not going undone, they don't need the hassle of leaving their current situation to hire you. But you work on them long enough, their situation is going to change. People, whatever, get better jobs, get married, move out of state, stuff happens, life goes on. And then one day they need you. And if they don't know you, then somebody else gets that job, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it is a long play. And that's the part where a lot of people are like, no, I need business today. I need the sale, right? On the welcome breakfast.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
the exception to the rule.
Yeah, that was an aberration. That did not happen to me. So that's legit. And the other thing I think a lot of people sleep on is, I'm not necessarily trying to sell to the person in front of me, but perhaps the people that they know, or, the real people I love to talk to are what I would call referral partners. So really like an insurance agency that's writing cyber liability insurance, and they're getting to the questionnaire and he's like, okay, you need to have your IT guy fill this out. Like, I don't have an IT guy. Like, oh, for this, you might need one. You know what I mean? And then call this guy down the street. He's got a nice company, that kind of stuff. So I love referral kind of stuff. And I also feel like if you have like a pay it forward kind of nature, it's like, how can I help you? As opposed to, can you please give me your money? Like, I just feel like being a connector tends to pay off better anyway. And
Right.
it's more
So
fun.
you'd be a pretty good interviewer, because the next thing I wanted to talk about is referral partners and referral opportunities. So in the chamber, do you find that most of the people who attend are owners, or are they the sales people who are sent there to meet what turns out to be other salespeople? Because sometimes networking events are all just salespeople trying to sell each other all the time.
That's true. I would say it depends on the event, it depends on the chamber, but I would say it averages probably 25 to 35% salespeople, and then the rest are either executive management or the actual owners. But I've had a lot of luck interacting with salespeople. One of our main referral sources, believe it or not, is other MSPs. So I figured out, but I realized, God, at least 12 years ago, that there's enough business out there for everybody. And why not be collaborative with your competition? So a lot of the time I'll run into these sales guys, at an MSP nearby and say, look, you're chasing this clientele, we're chasing that clientele. We should work together. If you're getting leads like that and you don't want to have anything to do with it, don't tell them pound sand. Say, we can't help you, but these guys can, and those have been some of the best relationships of all. Plus, nobody understands our industry, Karl, like we do. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's just fun to kick back and to swap stories or cry on each other's shoulders.
Well, I'm a huge believer in local IT user groups. Like, I run one in Sacramento, and I've been running it literally, I think, 20 years now, and awesome. We don't meet as often as we could or should, but we try to meet once a month, and we do a Christmas get together, and but it's an opportunity to actually know people that I can send business to and people I can hire, and they can hire me, and So what about, speaking of referral partners and chamber, you mentioned insurance. Have you had the opportunity to meet people either in insurance or accounting or other organizations where they also belong to another group that might have you speak or might become kind of an offshoot referral situation.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, everybody's plugged into slightly different things. So, yeah, I try to leverage as many of those relationships as I can because you never know where you're going to find a client.
Right. And are the people that you know in your local chamber kind of the movers and shakers in your town?
More or less, I'd say so. Yeah, they tend to be the people that care.
Right.
They're not absentee owners. They care about their community. Those are the people I like to commiserate with because that's me.
So has this earned you like a spot sitting on the back of a convertible at the 4th of July party or 4th of July parade or anything like that?
I'll tell you, we just did a parade for Memorial Day, and one of our company cars is a smart car, which looks a lot like a street legal go-kart or golf cart. Excuse me.
Right.
And it's branded with the company and all that. So my 8-year-old son, and it's a 2-seater, my 8-year-old son and I climbed into this thing and we're driving it in the parade and we're got our nerd glasses on. And I bought 8 pounds of little packs of Nerds candy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And we're just throwing them out the window at everybody. It's almost like its own little Mardi Gras. And my God, that was so much fun. People were laughing and they were picking up the candy like, oh my God, candy's Nerds. Oh my God. It was fun, man. That was a hoot.
So do you give out nerds at Halloween?
Well now.
So you're going to send me a picture of the glasses, even though I have a pair. I could take the picture, but you probably have a better picture. But many years ago, you gave me a pair of nerd glasses, and these are not just like thick glasses. They actually have a piece of tape on them, and you give these out for your company. So I love that branding because it's very playful and it's very memorable, right?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so we'll post that in the at SMB Community Podcast when we post up the interview. Very cool. So we don't have a ton of time left, but I did want to ask you, what's the best thing about working with a chamber?
For me, I get really excited about small business in general. And it's no accident that I do what I do for a career because I essentially get to help the small business community all day long, and that's who we are. We're a small business. And a lot of times folks don't quite understand that, yeah, Apple, Google, Microsoft, those are really big trillion-dollar companies, but the backbone of the economy is actually the small business community.
Absolutely.
By a large margin. And just because there's a lot of us does not mean we're not powerful. So I get excited about anything and everything as it pertains to the furthering of small business because it's just good for the country. It's good for jobs. It's good for the economy. It's a path to success. So, it started off at the local chamber and went to a regional chamber and then the state chamber. And now I'm doing things with the US chamber. And that's going to be really interesting because now we're talking about Congress, and tax cuts that are small business friendly that might be expiring soon. And what do we do about that? So that's what I get jazzed about, Karl, is everything and anything that has to do with the small business world. I feel like the chambers are just the best singular conduit to do stuff like that.
So you are actively involved in your small local chamber, but are you involved in one in Maryland or in Baltimore or DC?
Yeah, so the local chamber, past president, I'm no longer on the board, but still a very active member. I'm on the board for a regional chamber called the Central Maryland Chamber. Like part of their footprint, for example, is Fort Meade, NSA, all that good stuff. And I'm, as you said, I'm an executive member of the state chamber. Now, the state chamber doesn't do nearly as many activities, but the ones they do are very big and pretty awesome. So it's very bandwidth friendly because they do neat stuff. For example, I'm going to have lunch with the governor of Maryland on Monday, only because of my relationship with this chamber. So that's really cool. And then of course, got I'm on the Small Business Council for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is what I'm doing for those guys right now. But yeah, so it's neat. So at every level, it's different. So with the U.S. and the state chambers, their primary modality is legislative related activities. What's going on with the laws and how can we make sure that they're business friendly. Whereas the regional and the local chamber is more of a networking,
Right.
relationship building kind of thing.
So if folks are in big cities, they're in New York or Chicago or Los Angeles, should they join the big chamber, or should they join the one for their suburb or their local, or both? Or, where do you start at the local level? What's your advice on that?
I would say start at the local level. Every single one of these chambers I rattled off really doesn't conflict with another. They do different things. They're in slightly different areas. So I've been able to kind of, in my opinion, fully leverage all of them, even though I'm doing them kind of all at the same time. And then, like what I like to tell folks around here, and it probably applies anywhere. So like here, technically I had 5 local chambers to choose from. I always say, go to some of their events. Usually there's like a non-member little bit of a surcharge, to attend, but it's nothing crazy, $25, $30, something like that. And just go and see what you like, see if you like the vibe in the room, the kind of businesses that participate. It just so happens the local chamber here and the Central Maryland chamber are literally bordering cities. They're that close together, but their membership is completely different. You know what I mean? It's rare if I see a person in one that I see at another one. I almost never see any overlap. So, but you don't know that unless you start going to things and talking to people. And a lot of times it's not who's a member as much as it is who goes to stuff, So the only way you really know that is to go to the events.
And when people join, I'm assuming you could just Google chamberinmycity.com or Chamber of Commerce mycity.com and whatever. So do they do they just assume you're not going to be very involved at first because you don't know anybody, and it takes a long time to become on the board or whatever? Is that pretty much what it's like? Like you start out as just another person in the crowd? And
yeah, usually, everybody's situation can be different, but usually it's something along the lines of you start going to stuff, people start recognizing you, and then typically most chambers will have committees that have certain activities. I'm a big fan of reaching our young people in the interest of helping them develop a sense of what careers they want to go into, financial literacy, and some things that maybe the school system doesn't really address directly. So I'm actually the vice chair of the education committee for the local chamber. And we do things like mentoring kids in middle school. We do talks with the business class kids at the local high school, and it's just meant to be, informational and inspiring, but so, and then from there, maybe a board position or something like that. But that's the usual progression I've seen.
Right. Well, I don't want to post up your email for the public, but can we get like your LinkedIn profile and so forth to post in the notes, and then we'll share that. And if folks want to contact you, they can do that.
Yeah, that's actually my preferred way to engage. So I will give that to you now.
Excellent. Very good. Well, Chris Barber, chamber member and leader extraordinaire, thank you for sharing your wisdom and your time with us. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Karl, thank you for having me. And if I could do a quick shameless plug, if you're not a member of the NSITSP, you need to seriously reconsider that. They're doing great things. Please join. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you for tuning into the SMB Community Podcast. If you found this useful, interesting, or fun, please subscribe, share with your friends, and give us a thumbs up on your favorite social media. Please check out the show notes at smbcommunitypodcast.com and give us your feedback.